is the way we want people to behave, and then you look at the unit level, and this is how people actually do behave. And there's usually a disparity there, okay? So companies' culture is dependent upon its leaders. And I've seen really, really good people, and I've seen really, really bad people in my day. Now, and basically how when you have good people with high integrity, it shows throughout every facet of the organization. When you have people on the other end, that shows as well. And they're really, that's why I always talk about setting your bar high and the companies you work with, where no one would ever even question, ask you to do anything unethical. So, there's a lot of companies out there that will push the envelope a little bit, and you want to stay away from them as much as possible. Corporate culture reflects an organization's ethical behavior. That's from top down. I always bring up, I always bring up Chick-fil-A, for example, with regards to, I always use them as an example because I know I go in there, I get a consistent product, and I get great service, and regardless of the whatever political standpoint the owners have, or whatever the case may be, I know when I go in there what I'm getting each and every time. So it permeates the culture of that organization. They would not, they say it's as simple as please and thank you, and instilling that in your employees, and saying that to guests. You transpose that into another, walk into some other fast food establishments, and you see people who really don't look like they don't want to be there, don't care. I'm sure if you look at their handbook at corporate, their handbook is completely different than what it says in the or what they're doing at the unit level, but it goes to leadership. So aligning yourself with companies that share your values is very important, and setting a high bar. Ethics statement is generally what companies will put out that shows what they believe their ethical behavior should be. And there is a conflict of interest that happens when your values is not aligned with the company that you're working with. I've had it happen numerous times where the company that I'm working with, it's not a good fit. It's just, you can tell it's not a good fit, but that's when you start looking. But you make sure you're doing this before you get on board with the company. You want to interview them, like we talk about interviewing, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, and you want to ask questions about these things. It all kind of goes back to career planning, money management, making sure that you're financially stable enough to be able to move on if you need to. But if there's ever any conflicts of interest, you need to address those right away. Ethical issues arise almost daily at work when you're in conflict with something that you believe is or isn't right. One of the things with work is making sure that you have confidentiality is key. Making sure that work-related information issues are private. What Ms. Flohr was talking about earlier with regards to social media, making sure you're not blasting things on social media that, bashing your boss. I've seen it time and time again. It's just not very. Have any of you ever seen that? Okay. Do you think your employers cannot access that and find it? I mean, it's just.
It was in person. It wasn't on social media.
Right. Well, either or. I mean.
But I was like, this is bad. This shouldn't be going on.
Right. You're going to make sure that there's implied confidentiality as a manager or leader that things that happen within your establishment, you don't share that information outside. And if you're ever unsure about about the sharing of information, always check with your supervisor. There's 3 levels of ethical decisions. First is law, second is fairness, third is ethics or conscience. If it breaks the law, of course you can't do it, or you could face jail time. Second is fair. Is it fair to the guests, your employees, those working around you? Is it fair to everyone? If it's not fair, then you have to think about that. Third is your conscience. Every single one of us knows right and wrong. And sometimes we kind of turn a blind eye to that, but we all know whether we should be doing something or not. People will try to push that envelope throughout your career, but you have to make sure that you tell people. I like to think of it as like an invisible force field, where if somebody comes up to you and asks you to do something, whether it's your boss, whoever it may be, and you can let them know that, I'm sorry, I can't do that. That puts up a force field with those around you. Your bosses don't, I'm this person that has unquestionable character, I'm not even gonna think about asking them to do anything, because they will ask you to do things. Whether it's fudging inventory numbers, doing something that's not right, people need to know that you don't do that, okay? And if that's the culture where that persists, then find a new culture, find a new job. Have any of you ever been confronted with situations like that? Would you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, doing inventory at my old job last year, if something was only like 1 or 2 numbers off and we sent it back to Nashville and gotten it back wrong like 3 or 4 times, they were like, yeah, just make it up so it's right so we can go home.
Right. Oh, fudging numbers. So you don't want to make you want to make sure that some people, some bosses, in order to, their bonus could be contingent upon what their numbers come out as. They'll ask you, you say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. You can do it if you like. Or if you're a bartender, server, I'm sorry, I can't serve this person. They're cut off. And your boss says, serve him. I'm sorry, you go ahead and do it. I can't. And I've done it 100 times in my career. And people know that they're not going to ask you to do things that aren't right after that. Yes, ma'am.
I had a boss who I was getting bullied, and I went to him about it. He said, "We'll just bully her back." And I was like,
Great
"That's
advice.
not who I am as a person. That's
Right.
not ever who I'm going to be as a person."
Mhm.
And I just decided to leave. I was like, "No,
Yeah.
not getting left out that money."
You're going to work, there's a lot of bad people out there. And what I do is, if you haven't noticed over the last 5 weeks, my goal is to help you kind of steer clear of that. I think it's like 20% of the workforce is completely bad, okay? Bosses, employees, everything, 20%. Most people are good, but you're gonna have a pretty, there's a percentage out there who are bad. Not necessarily that companies are bad, but the people that work within them are bad. That's where the whole SOP manual, it should be this, but we're actually do this. Where you work for, I'm sure it might have been a reputable company, on paper, and people look at it, but inside, you look at the bosses and how they behave, it's just not right. It's not a good cultural fit, or it's not a good fit for you and your values, so you move on. But first thing you do is you make sure you let your HR or whoever know about this, and I'll get into some things about this later from my personal experiences. But if something's not right, you need to report. And always remember that. There's always someone out there you can talk to, and if you find out you talk to people within your company and it's still not getting fixed, it's time to find a new company. All right. First thing I want to ask is the law, is the action legal? If the action's illegal, you don't take it. So whether it's taking money or product, or whatever the case may be, that's illegal, you don't do it. Second is fairness. It should be fair to all parties involved. That's your colleagues, your supervisors, and your employees. If someone's going to be harmed, or if it's unfair to one person, you have to question that and make sure that you're being fair with your end results. And then you're conscious. That's the most important thing, is knowing inside what's right and what's wrong. Again, we all have some type of a moral compass, as they would call it, but it's about following that, making sure, because once I said, once you start going down that slippery slope and start doing things to cut corners, it's greatly going to affect your career and your personally and professionally. There's a lot of different types of workplace power that you talk about leadership, leaders and managers, and what type of power that they have. That's the ability to influence others' behavior. Do you have to be a manager in order to have power? What's an example of that? You be a shift leader. How about just a line employee? Do any line employees have power or leadership abilities? Right. Doesn't matter what your position. There's no real leader positions out there. They always have like a leader versus manager. You see those things on LinkedIn all the time. The differences between the two. Nobody is really, their job title is leader. There's not a whole lot of those out there. Most people are managers, directors, whatever the case may be, but they have leadership qualities. What we're going to talk about here is 7 different types of power: legitimate, coercive, reward, connection, charismatic, information, and expert. Legitimate power is power that you have as a manager in a company. It's power that's given to you. That's like, I'm the boss, That's why, you know, all this will work for people probably, I'm the boss, and they say what, how it is because I'm the boss, and you're not. And you work for people like that, raise your hand. Okay, people like that, insecure, of course, that all they have is the ability to their title, all right? They're a manager of the, that's all they have, I'm the manager of this place, you have to do what I say. You're able to get, you could be able to get things done, but that's not how you develop teams, that's not real legitimate leadership, that's just a power by title. Now, there are times where you have to pull rank. And that's when you get some higher leadership positions where, you try working things out as a team and doing things, but inevitably at the end of the day, you have to make a decision, and that goes to legitimate power where you sit on the organizational chart. Coercive power is a type of power where people use negative threats for punishment. You do this, or or you won't be able to work next Saturday, or get this done, or this. It's a quid pro quo of do this, or the end result's going to be this, and that's not the type of boss you want to be either, or leader you want to be. That's just people who that's weak. When we start talking as we're going down the list, it's going to get into the better types of power that they have. Reward power is almost similar to that in a way where if you do this, I'll give you this. Pay increases, promotion, or it could be better shifts. If a lot of this happens, especially in the restaurant industry, hotel industry. You have a lot of people that call out each and every day, and you find yourself as a manager having to pull things together in order to make a shift happen. I said shift.